everyone. Welcome to the entire world. The entire world is going to experience a wonderful astronomical event that is an annual solar eclipse. Space India welcomes you to the experience, the phenomenal celestial event of 2020. Space India, in collaboration with Virtual Telescope and the project of Dubai Astronomy Group, is going to show eclipses from various parts of India and all over the world. From India, we'll be giving live feed from Rajasthan, Dehradun, Surat, Chennai, and many more locations. It's the first time can witness such an eclipse from India. The eclipse will take place on narrow path of angularity across Africa and Asia. It will be visible at sunrise in the Congo and the Republic of Congo, then as higher in the sky, spectacles in South Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Yemen, Oman, south of Pakistan, and all the way to the northern India, Tibet, China, and Taiwan. Space India, a pioneering institute in astronomy and space science, has been changing the pace of education and motivation in India through path-breaking concepts, services, and programs. The aim and object of this organization is to derive from the article of our Constitution to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry and reform. We at the Space India have stepped up to the line, reaching beyond limits. We have raced through the ocean of intuition, thriving our way out with ideas and research, conquering each quest with the fullness of purpose. So, why the eclipse of June 2020 is important? The first solar eclipse of 2020, the second and the last solar eclipse of the year will take place on December 24th, which will be total solar eclipse. It will be visible in India. The day also happened to be June solstice, the longest day of the year. The eclipse will be visible from much of the Asia, Africa, and the Pacific, the Indian Ocean, and part of Europe and Australia. This will be the annular solar eclipse. During the annular solar eclipse, the moon covers the sun from the center, leaving the right of the light visible in the sky. This is because the moon will be far away from the earth. That will make its relative size not big enough to cover the sun completely. The ring of fire will not be seen constantly. It will only be seen when the eclipse is at its peak. Before and after, you will only be able to see a crescent-shaped sun. Looking directly at the sun can cause permanent damage to the eye retinas, due to which it is recommended that you follow safety precautions. Now we know about the first contact or transist. What is first contact? A phenomenon when a celestial body passes directly between the large body and the observer as video viewed from a particular vantage point, the transisting body appearing to move across the face of the larger body, covering a small portion of it. The eclipse begins. The moon touches the sun and it takes its tiny nipple out of the solar disk. First contact is initially visible through a telescope, then in binoculars, and finally with the unaided eye. Regardless of how you view it, observing with a safe solar filter is an absolute must. The solar eclipse of 2020 marks one of only 5 such instances where the maximum solar eclipse will be visible for India in the next 100 years. The annular belt of the eclipse in India passes through cities like Josimat and Dehradun in Uttarakhand, Sirsa in Haryana, parts of Rajasthan, but the eclipse can be seen from various other countries. India will witness a historical annular solar eclipse, such in the enormity of the eclipse that is one of the only 5 instances when India will witness a full solar eclipse in the next 100 years. Now, do's and don'ts of this is here. India to watch the eclipse, do special eclipse classes or hand solar viewers to watch the solar eclipse. Always check the glasses properly. If they are scratched or damaged, do not use them. Don'ts. Do not look at the sun with naked eye. It can lead to permanent damage to your eye. Do not look at the sun using sunglasses. Do look at the sun, using binoculars, telescopes, or any cameras. Now, I would like to introduce our collaborators, Dubai Astronomical, the virtual telescope, and the third, we like to give special thanks to DPS Greater Noida. We are highly appreciated by your initiative. I would like to share you some past eclipse presentation with you all.
So now you are armed with the knowledge about the solar eclipse. You know how to observe it, you know how to photograph it. So let's talk about the Ring of Fire solar eclipse expedition. Now I told you that you will be part of an expedition where the participants, people from all over the country, will be doing a collaborative study of the solar eclipse. And this is not the first time that the space team is doing it. Space India has been a pioneer in the field of astronomy, and we have been chasing eclipse since the early 2000s. Okay, and not just that, space team goes for the solar eclipse expedition. We take along students and general public as well. Our first solar eclipse expedition of 2006, named Heliodc, we selected students from all over India and we took them to the solar eclipse observation out of India. And the same Heliodc team got a chance to meet Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was then President of India. After that, we conducted various solar eclipse expedition and took public and students to different part of the world as well as India. In 2009, there was a total solar eclipse which was visible from India, and the greatest eclipse point was in Bihar. There is a location named Taregana, which is the birthplace of ancient Indian astronomer Aryabhat. And our team, along with Bihar government, conducted a public observation where more than 1.5 lakh people gathered to observe the eclipse. And at the same time, we booked a flight and we flew over Taregana, and the student observed the eclipse from the flight. And very next year in 2010, there was a solar eclipse. Okay, it was visible from Indian Ocean. So what did we do? We booked a cruise and observed the eclipse from there. And even after that, our journey has been going on, observing various solar eclipses. Okay, we also observed the 2017 solar eclipse from America. And in 2019, when there was an annular solar eclipse seen from India, we selected students again through the campaign of Heliodc, and we took them to Oman. Okay, and our team went to different locations in India to capture the solar eclipse. If you remember the eclipse phases photograph that I showed you, which was captured from Cheravatur. Again, on 21st June 2020, we have this annular solar eclipse, an amazing opportunity to photograph and observe the sun. So here, I invite all of you to be a part of this expedition. How can you be? So there are various scientific experiments that you can perform during the time of a solar eclipse. Okay, because in just a span of few hours, a lot of things change. We can actually relate the impact of sun's heat on the temperature on Earth. We know that day and night cycle happens because of the Earth's rotation, and in the night time the temperature dips down a little bit. Okay, and we know that it's because the sunlight is not reaching to that part of Earth. But the solar eclipse present an opportunity, especially the annular and the total solar eclipse, where we can directly see the relation between sun and the temperature. Okay, so you can it's a simple experiment. Just use a thermometer, okay, and observe the change in temperature at different phases of the eclipse. Okay, before the eclipse, during annularity, just after annularity, and after the eclipse. So if the eclipse is for around 3 hours, so take the readings at an interval of 5 minutes and 10 minutes and just observe how the temperature is varying. Similarly, you can do experiments to see the variation in humidity and pressure. Okay. Another experiment that you can do is the change in wind speed and wind direction, because that is also impacted by the sunlight. Another simple experiment that you can do is to observe the animals in your surrounding. Now remember that during the eclipse it gets dark, right? In the middle of the day, if it's getting dark, the animals are going to start behaving weird. So just keep an eye on the birds, animals around you and observe the change in the behavior of them. And I'll be sharing a link with you where you can submit the data related to these experiments. Now, I have told you certain experiments that you can perform. If you find any other experiment, okay, you are free to do so. Send us the detail of the same experiment and we will publish the results. Okay. The second part that you can do, one is observation, the second is experiment, the third comes photography. Okay. So whatever equipment you have with you, whether it's a pinhole camera, whether you have a DSLR camera, whether you have a mobile camera or simply a digicam, use any of those camera to photograph the solar eclipse. Okay. Show your creativity, use your imagination, choose frames with a good foreground or keep yourself in the frame. Take a selfie with the eclipse, okay? Whatever you can imagine, take a photograph and submit them to us. And we will publish those photographs on our social media pages and website. So with this, I Tarun Sharma. Wish you all the best for solar eclipse of 21st June 2020. And again, a kind request to all of you that be safe and don't be too adventurous, because yes, the solar eclipses are rare. An annular solar eclipse is again an amazing opportunity to witness the wonder of the nature, but at the same time, our health is most important. We are facing a pandemic, so keep that thing in mind while you are planning the observation and photography. So, wish you all clear skies and happy eclipse.
As we know, the eclipse has started. Now we will connect to Suraj.
Welcome back. Now we are out in the open on the terrace and we are here to observe and photograph this. Okay. So I told you various methods to observe and photograph the sun earlier, and now I'm going to show it to you practically. Okay. So we have got different things over here. We have a 50 mm refractor telescope. Right, this over here is a ball projector, and this over
sight?
here is a solar filter
Imagine a day
made for
when you're
this
outside,
particular telescope.
it's bright
Okay,
sunny,
and right in my
and
pocket
suddenly
I have
it's dark.
a solar view goggle.
The light drops.
Okay, so one by one I'm going to show
and
you
it seems
different
like
methods
it's
to observe
nighttime
the sun.
during the middle
Simplest
of the day,
method
even when
is
it's not cloudy.
these solar view goggles.
You
So
might
they
even
have
be
these
able to
filters
see the
over here,
stars in the sky.
and they are designed in such a way
What
that
is
they
this
can block
sorcery?
99.9% light of
occur?
the sun.
So this
Okay.
phenomena
What do you do
is
to
what we
observe the sun?
call
Simply
a
open them up,
solar eclipse.
wear it,
And
and
during a
look
solar
towards the
eclipse,
sun.
we can
I will
have
show you how the sun
situation
looks like
nighttime
through these
in the mid
solar
of
view
the day.
goggles. Okay, you can
And
order it
that
from
is
us
what
in
we are going
case
to
you don't
discuss
have
in
these
today's
solar view
interaction.
goggles,
So
but
hello
you
everyone,
have a
my name is
telescope
Tarun,
or a
and I welcome
binocular.
you to this interaction.
Then how do you
where
observe the sun?
we are
Okay.
going to
Number
talk
one thing,
about
that never
the
ever
solar
observe the
eclipse.
sun directly,
What it is,
and
what it
whenever
is
you
all
are out
about,
in the sun, in the
why should
open,
we
cover
observe
yourself,
them? Why
wear a
should we
cap,
study them?
always keep a
And
water bottle
what
with
can
you,
we do
okay, and
when
keep
a
yourself
solar eclipse
completely
is happening?
covered so that you can
So are
be
you ready for
safe
this
from the
interaction?
heat of the sun.
Let's start.
And do not stay
So,
out in the open
eclipse
in the
is
sunlight
also
for
known
too
as
long.
game
Okay,
of
just
shadows.
observe and then go back in the
And what
shade
they are.
and wait for some time,
So
and
if we
then
talk about
come back
them
again. Otherwise,
in
it's the
brief,
month of the June.
so
In the North
they are
India, it will
basically
be very hot.
games of
Okay,
shadows,
so I
which
don't want you to
involves
fall sick just for
celestial
the eclipse.
bodies,
Take
that
care
is
of your health.
sun, moon,
Let's
and
come
earth.
to the second method of
So for
observation,
people
where
on Earth,
we'll
the
be
eclipses
using
can
a
occur,
50 mm telescope
which
and we'll
involves
be
these
projecting the
three
image of the
objects of
sun.
the solar
Now we cannot
system.
look at the sun
What
directly, so
happens
there's
during
no
the
way
eclipse?
I can point
So
this
basically,
telescope
when
to the
moon
sun by
comes in
looking from
between Earth
this
and
side,
sun,
right? So normally if I
we'll
need
have
to
a
point this
solar eclipse,
telescope to some
and
object,
when
so
the
what I need to
Earth
do,
comes in
I need to
between
loosen it
moon
up
and sun,
and then
we'll have
look
a
from this
lunar
side and
eclipse.
point towards that
So what
particular
happens?
object.
So when
I cannot do the
this
same
kind of
thing with the
symmetry
sun.
takes place,
Why?
basically
It's too bright, I
shadow
cannot
of
look at
one
it. So what do I
object
do?
falls
I
on
use a method
another.
that
So
is
when
known
we
as
talk about a
shortest
solar
shadow
eclipse,
method.
the shadow
Now if you
of
look
moon
over here,
is
you can
falling on
see
the
the
Earth.
shadow of the
And during a lunar
telescope
eclipse,
over
the
here.
shadow of
Okay,
Earth is
and
falling on the
what we are going to do,
moon.
we are going to
So for
basically
people who are
make
living
it
on
the
Earth, what would
shortest.
it
Why?
appear?
Because
That the moon,
anybody's
during the solar eclipse,
any object
the
shadow
moon
will be
tries to cover
shortest
the
when it is
sun,
directly aligned with
and
the light source.
during a
So
lunar
now you can
eclipse,
see the shadow is
Earth
long,
tries to
so I'm just
cover
gonna
the
move
moon.
the
So it
telescope,
doesn't actually, the Earth doesn't cover
it
the
becomes
moon,
shortest,
or
and
the
then
moon
again
doesn't
it
cover the sun. It's actually
increases in
all
size.
about
So
the
I'm gonna bring it to the
shadows.
shortest.
It only appears
Done.
from
So
Earth
now it is aligned in
that
this way,
these
in the
phenomena are
azimuthal way.
occurring.
Now I'm gonna move
And
the
these
altitude
phenomena
part
are
of the
very rare.
telescope. Okay.
But whenever they
Now
happen,
remember we
I
have the
guarantee you,
eyepiece over
it's an
here.
amazing sight.
Okay.
It's a
So if your
magnificent
telescope
sight
has this
to
feature where
be
you can
there
remove
and to
this
observe these wonders
mechanism,
of
or if
nature.
you don't have this
And they
feature, what
also
do?
presents an
You
amazing
simply keep a
opportunity
screen
to
handy with
observe
you.
the
So it's
universe
simply a white
and
screen,
our celestial
okay,
objects
and keep
in a
it
completely
on the
different
eyepiece so
perspective.
that no body
And
part
this
should
is the
be
reason a solar
exposed to the
eclipse
eyepiece.
was the
Otherwise,
reason that
it will get burned. So for now, I'm
a
removing this
scientist
part.
named
Okay,
Eddington
and
could
now
prove
I'm just gonna move it
Albert
towards the sun
Einstein's
and just
theory of
observe the
relativity.
shadow. It is getting shorter and
And
shorter.
there are a lot of myths
And at the
associated
part
with
where it is
the
perfectly
eclipses,
aligned with the sun,
but
you will
they
see
do not hold any scientific
a white
backing.
dot. Can you see that over here? Right over
So
here.
the myths
Right?
are not
You can see
the
the
things
white
that
dot
we
over
need to
here.
worry about during
So
an
I'm just
eclipse.
gonna
But
align it
actually,
properly,
we should think about
and
the
it's done.
science that we
Okay,
can do
so it's
during
almost
an
aligned.
eclipse.
Now
So
what
during
I'm
the
gonna
solar
do,
eclipse
just
of
I'm gonna use
1990,
these
Eddington
eyepiece, attach
proved
it,
the theory
and
of
now just see
relativity
that
given
from
by
where the
Albert
eyepiece
Einstein.
is, from where the light is coming
It
out,
could
I don't
only
have
be
any
possible during
body
the
part or
solar
anything.
eclipse.
Okay, and that is very
So I would
important.
leave it
So
up
I've
to you
just
to
done
read
it, and the
about it in
telescope moved a
detail,
little, so I'm just going to
that
use the
what
screen
was general theory of
and again
relativity
align it.
and which postulate of general theory of relativity did Eddington
You can
prove.
see the shadow,
And it was
the image
only
of the sun.
possible during a total solar eclipse. And
I'm just
it also
gonna...
presents an opportunity where you can prove
Okay, so
the
if you just
flat
look over
earthers
here,
wrong.
you see this
I know you
bright
might be
portion.
surprised
So
that
this
who
is
believes in a
the
flat
image of
earth.
the sun. So
But
this
there are
method is
still
known as
a few
telescopic
hundred people.
projection.
Yes, there
I'll
are
just at this
who
point I'm believe
just going to lock this
that the
telescope
Earth is flat. So this
that it doesn't
can
move,
be an
and
amazing
then
opportunity.
you
where
have a
can show
focusing
them,
knob in your
let us
telescope.
Have a look.
For me, it is here.
Why?
Right, this one.
Because
This is my focusing
during a
knob.
lunar eclipse,
I'm just gonna
when
move
Earth's
this
shadow
to
fall
focus
on the
my
moon, you can see the
sun.
curved edge, which proves that the Earth is round.
And similarly, during a solar eclipse,
Okay.
as the
So
moon
now
comes
it
in
is
between Earth and
completely
Sun, and
focused.
as the moon covers
So
the
as
disk of
far
the
as you
sun,
move
you can see
from
that
the
moon is
telescope, the image will
also
start
round.
getting
So you can prove
bigger.
to the people
Okay.
that both
And
Earth
if you
and
have
moon
any
are
sunspot on the
not
sun,
flat, but they're
so
actually
it will be visible in this
spherical bodies, right? So why
Okay.
are we discussing about this?
So this is
today?
the
Why is it
telescopic
important?
projection method. The same
So
technique
we are
can
all
be used
aware
if you
that on
want to observe
21st
through a
June
binocular.
2020,
Okay, again
we
align
have
it
an
and then
annular
project the
eclipse,
image.
an annular
Now,
solar eclipse.
I have the solar filter
And
with
today's
me in case you also
introduction
have the
is
solar filter.
focused
So the
on
filter
that.
that we use in the
So
solar
I
view
am
goggles,
gonna
the same
tell
filter
you
is used
about
over here. And we fix
all
it on
about
this
the solar
adapter.
eclipses,
If you have the
how you can
filter, you
observe
can
it,
make
from
this
where you
adapter
can
using
observe it,
cardboard
and how
for
you
your
can
telescope or binocular.
photograph the
Now
solar
I'm going to,
eclipse.
without moving the telescope, I'll just
So let's move
simply
forward.
place it over
Let's
here.
understand why does an
Okay.
eclipse occur?
Now it is easy
Okay.
for me
Now
to
we know
observe
that
from
it's all about
this
the
eyepiece.
shadows.
So I'm just
right?
gonna observe it from
That shadow of
here,
an object
and
is
I'll
falling
observe
on another object. So
a
to understand
orange
the
ball
complete
that is
phenomena of
the
eclipses, we first need to understand
okay.
the science of
Now
shadows.
one thing
right?
that is very critical
So,
over here,
in your
that
real life
when you
as well,
fix
if you
the
go around
solar
and if you
filter on your
observe your
telescope or
shadow, which is
binocular,
formed
you have to
because of
make
a light
sure
source and
that
you,
it
right?
doesn't fly
So you
off.
will notice
And
that
over
the
here also
shadow
it's very
has
windy,
two
so make
parts,
sure you
a
hold
darker
it
part
or you
which we call as
tape it.
umbra, and
Because
a lighter
by
part, a fuzzy
accident,
part,
if
which we
this
call as
goes
penumbra.
off
The same thing you can see over here.
and somebody is
Now,
observing from
if
the eyepiece,
the light source
that
is a point
person's
source,
eye will be
right? Just
damaged.
a point from where the light is
Okay,
coming.
so make sure
So
you
the
keep
shadow
it
will always
perfectly
be dark
placed
and
over
we'll
the
only have
telescope or
umbra,
binocular,
right?
whichever
But
equipment you
if it's a
have.
big source,
All right.
right?
So
Sun.
and when you are not observing
So
the sun,
we'll also
remember
have a dark
when you're
shadow
not observing
as well
the
as a
sun,
lighter surrounding.
keep it in the parking
That
position.
is known
Okay,
as
so that by accident any child
penumbra.
or any other person who
Another
is not
part
aware
of the
about the
shadow
sun,
which we
do
call
not
as
observe
the
it accidentally.
antambral
Okay,
shadow,
and always keep it
antambra
tracked.
of
So
the
for now,
shadow, which
I'll
you
just
can
move this setup
see
on one
over
side.
here. So
Okay.
if
And now I'll
you
tell you about the
cross
next
the
method of
cone of the
observation.
umbra
Again,
shadow,
something
and if you lie
that you
after
can
that,
easily make
that is
at
what we
your
call as the
home.
antambral
That is
shadow,
a ball
right?
projector.
So these three kinds of
Simple
shadow are very important to understand.
tool to
Okay?
observe the
And
sun.
they,
How
you
do we
should
make it?
remember that
We simply
because
have a ball.
eclipses
Okay,
are
inside the
all
ball we
about
have
these
filled
kind
sand.
of
Half of it
shadows.
is filled with sand,
In
so
which
that
part
it can
an object
stay
lies will decide
permanently.
what kind of
Okay,
an
otherwise
eclipse
it might
will
roll down,
occur
and then you can keep it
during
on a
that
round
time. Okay.
bangle
So
kind
now
of a
let's
thing.
understand
So I keep it on this
different types
stand.
of eclipses.
On this, I have
So
pasted a
broadly we
small
can categorize
mirror.
in two categories:
Now,
solar eclipse
if mirror is there,
and
don't think
a
that I'm going to
lunar
see
eclipse.
inside the
Okay?
mirror to see
And
the reflection. No,
these solar and lunar
I'm going
eclipse
to
can further
project
be
the
classified
image of
in
the sun
different
on a white
categories.
screen.
Like if we talk
Now,
about
if you
lunar
see,
eclipses, so we have three kinds of
so a
lunar
simple
eclipses.
mirror has been
That is
pasted. You can make it
penumbral
at
lunar
your place
eclipse,
as well. I've pasted it
a
over
partial
here.
lunar
Now, if you
eclipse
just see
and
over
a
here at
total
this
lunar
point,
eclipse. You can see the
you can
photographs
see
of the
that
three
there
eclipses and
is
how the moon
a
would appear
white
during
rectangle,
these eclipses.
a bright
And
rectangle.
if you talk
Okay,
about the solar
now this
eclipse,
is
there can
the
be
reflection
four types
from
of
the
solar
mirror.
eclipses
Now
that
you
we
will
can
say,
observe.
how do we see the
Number
sun from
one
this?
is
So at
partial
such a
solar
close
eclipse,
distance,
when
we'll not be able to
certain
see the
portion
image of the sun
of the sun
properly.
is
Okay,
hidden by
but
the
if we
moon.
take this
Okay.
rectangle
The
and
second type of
if we
solar
project
eclipse
it at a
is
distance of around
known
10
as
meters
annular solar
from the
eclipse,
ball
when
projector,
the moon
okay,
covers the
so
sun
there
completely,
you will be able to
but
see the image
there's
of
a
the sun
ring
clearly.
around
So all
it,
you have to do is
which we call as the
10
ring
meters
of
from
fire.
this in shade,
So the moon
in shaded
actually
region, or
does not
you
cover
can
the
keep
sun
a box over here,
100%.
over there, a
Okay.
carton box, okay,
It is
and
aligned with the
inside
sun
that box
100,
you
in
project
a
the image. So
straight
slowly
line,
move
but
your ball
it is
projector. You
not
can see
covering
that the
it
reflection is moving
completely.
over here.
Okay.
Okay,
So the moon
slowly
is
keep it moving,
appearing
keep
a
it
bit
moving, keep it
smaller
moving,
than the
and
sun. That is
you
why
project
it will
it
not be
at
able
a
to hide it
distance of
completely,
around
and you will see a
10
ring of the
meters
sun
from the
around
ball projector.
disk of the
And over
moon.
there,
The
you
third
will
type of
be
eclipse,
able
which we
to
call as the
observe
total
the
solar
image of the
eclipse,
sun.
where
I will show you
the moon
how
will
that
cover the
projected
sun
image looks like.
100%. So that means you will
So
not
we have
be able to
observed
see
the sun
at
through
all.
telescope using the
Okay?
projection
And
method
this is
as
the
well as using
time
filter
when
with the help of
dark
solar view goggles
on the earth.
and a ball projector.
Not on the whole
Now
earth,
in all
only
these
at the
things
region
you need
where the that
material
shadow is falling.
that might not be
Okay.
present with
So,
everyone, with each one
the
of
video
you.
that I
If
showed
it
you,
is, that's
showed a
perfectly fine
total
and an
solar
amazing
eclipse.
thing.
And you must have
But in case you
noticed
don't have any of
that
these things
dip in the
and still you want to
brightness that
observe the
occurred
sun
during the
and
time
solar
of
eclipse,
totality.
what do?
Okay.
A
So
very
one by
simple
one,
method,
we'll discuss
that is
about
pinhole
all
projection.
these
For that,
solar
you only
eclipses.
need 2 sheets of paper.
So we'll not be going
What
in
do?
detail
You
about the lunar
make
eclipses because we are
pinhole
going to
in
discuss
one of
about
the
only on the
sheet. You can see
solar
a
eclipses.
small
So
pinhole
let's
over here
start
at this point,
and
right?
let's understand
And the
what
other sheet
happens
is
during the solar
perfect.
eclipse
Okay.
and how is the
What do?
geometry like during
Simply
the solar
point
eclipse.
this
So
sheet
in this
towards the
eclipse,
sun.
the
Okay, so what will happen? The sun is almost overhead
moon,
with me
and
right now.
Earth
I'm
are
just going to put
aligned
this
in a
ball because it is
straight
too windy
line.
out here and it's going to fly off.
Okay.
Okay.
And the
So
moon's
the sun is
shadow
almost overhead with me,
falls
to
on
me.
the
Okay.
Earth.
So the sun is right over here.
And
the sunlight
I
would
told you
enter
that
from
there
the
are three
pinhole
kind of
and
shadow
it
that
would
can be
make the
formed,
image on the
namely
other side.
Penumbra,
Okay.
Umbra,
Now, if I can
and
just show you
Antambra. You can
at
see
this place,
so when
you notice, so
the
you
penumbral
keep the
shadow
other sheet on the
falls on the
other
Earth,
side of the sun,
region
okay,
where the
and you can
penumbral
see
shadow of
there
the
is
moon
this white spot
is
over here,
falling on the
okay,
Earth,
and this spot
we
is
will
the
have a
sun, the
partial
image of
solar
the
eclipse
sun.
over there.
As I move the sheet
Okay?
with the pinhole a
Only
little
where
away
the
from this
penumbral
sheet,
shadow is falling.
the image will get
If
bigger.
the umbral shadow is falling
Okay,
on Earth,
if you keep now,
okay,
since
the
the
region
surroundings are
where
open as of
umbral
now,
shadow of
so
the
the
moon is
bright
falling
spot is
on
not
Earth,
that
there
visible. Okay, it's
we
not
will
visible in
see
that prominence. But if you just
total
close this
solar
box,
eclipse.
okay, you will see
Okay?
that this
And the region
would look
where
like
we have
brighter
antambra
and
shadow
better.
of the moon
Okay,
falling on Earth,
and
on those
just to
regions we will be able to see
you can
annular
think
solar
that
eclipse.
the hole is
Okay?
circular,
So let's start and
the
let's understand
image
about
has to be circular,
partial solar
but it's
eclipse.
not that
What is the
way.
partial solar
You can
eclipse?
and I will leave
Why
it up
does
to you. I'm not
occur?
showing it to you. You
So
try
this
it
is
yourself.
how
Make
a typical
different
partial
shapes
solar
of holes.
eclipse looks
Okay.
like. Now
Make
from
holes
different
of different
regions on
shapes,
Earth and
like
during different
triangular,
solar eclipses,
rectangular,
the
okay,
part of the sun that is
hexagonal,
covered by the
smaller
moon
holes,
might
and you will
change.
see
Okay?
that
So
even
basically,
through those holes,
some
if
part
you
of the sun
keep it
is
at a
being
particular
covered by
distance,
the
at enough distance
moon.
from the screen,
Okay? So
you
the
will
sun is
see
not
the image of
100%
the sun.
hidden by the
So
moon.
a very
It's
cheap
only certain
method.
percent.
Okay, you just
Okay?
need two
That
sheets of paper,
is
and
what
each
we
one of
call
you
as
have
the
it.
partial
Just
solar
go out and
eclipse.
observe the sun, and
Okay?
there are various
Here is an
variations
animation that
of
shows
the
you
pinhole
that
projector
how
method.
this partial solar
You can make
eclipse
it using a
starting
shoe
from
box
before
or
the
any
eclipse,
other
during the
box.
eclipse, and
Okay,
then
I
after
will
the eclipse.
show you. I'll show you the
Then
photographs
we
of
talk about the
such
second type
projectors
of
so
solar
that you can see
eclipse,
for
which
yourself.
is
And
total
during the
solar
time of the
eclipse.
eclipse, you can
The
actually
most magnificent solar
print out
eclipse that we can
name
see.
of
One of
yours
the
on the
best
sheet
wonders
and
of
make
the
pinholes
universe, one of the
in
best
that
sight
name,
to observe
and you will
and to
see
photograph.
each letter
When
and
the
each hole
sun is
will project the image
completely
of the sun. So it
hidden
will be an
by
amazing
the
project.
moon
You can
at sea from
print out
and
any
you can see
monument,
this
you can print
photograph
out
over here,
mountains or
and you
anything that you
see
like,
that
and
the
then
sun is
project
hidden,
the
and
image
that
of
is why we
that
can see
on
a
the
glow
screen.
around
And it's
the
going to be a
sun.
wonderful project.
This
Okay,
glow
so I
shows
have
you
this
the
leaf in my
corona
hand,
of the
and I'm
sun.
going to put it
So
near
the
the eyepiece
corona
of the
can
telescope,
only
and let's
be
see what happens.
seen during a total solar eclipse. So remember I told you that solar eclipses present an amazing opportunity to study
Can
the
you
sun
see?
in more detail.
There is
and,
smoke coming out
to
of this
learn more
leaf.
about the sun.
That's because
and
it is
specifically
burning.
its corona. Okay, because that can only be seen during a solar eclipse from Earth, and to be specific,
Now you
during
can
a
see it
total
over
solar
here.
eclipse.
If this
But we
can
have
happen
this.
to
I'm sure you have this question in
skin
mind.
is very
that
soft,
the sun
then
is
this
very, sorry.
leaf.
The
So
moon
just
is
imagine
very
what will
close
happen
to
to
us,
your
right?
eye.
Around
So
4
do
lakh
not
kilometers from us,
observe
right?
directly.
But the sun is really far. It's 150
I told you
billion
about
kilometers
different
from us.
methods of solar observation.
And also,
Now,
the moon is
let's
very
come
small,
to the next part,
right?
that is
Whereas the sun is
photography
huge.
of the sun
So how
or
can
solar eclipse.
the moon
Now,
cover
to do
the
that,
sun
there's one
completely?
very important
How is it even possible?
instruction.
I'm
Never
sure you
ever
have this
point
question in
your
mind, right?
camera
So think
directly
about
towards
it.
the sun, because for one
So
or two shots it is fine,
There is
but if you're
actually
using a high focal length lens,
amazing,
and
you
if
can
you're
say, synergy
taking the
and,
photograph of the sun for a
symmetricity
long time,
between
the
the
sensor will
three
be
celestial
damaged.
objects. That is the
So how do you
Earth,
photograph
Moon,
the sun
and the
without
sun.
damaging the sensor?
What is that?
You need a filter. So the same filter
The
that we have
moon
in this solar view
is
goggle, the same filter
smaller
can
than
be
the
used for
sun.
photography.
Okay.
Let's
and
say
to be
you
specific,
have your
it
mobile
is
phone,
actually
okay,
around
and nowadays
400 times
there are
smaller
amazing
than the sun.
camera that
But at
are
the
available.
same
So we have got different equipments as well to observe the solar eclipse. We have got different equipment to observe the solar eclipse, and now I guess we'll see how it looks like from we use solar filter and the telescope and the Dobsonian telescope. This is how eclipse is looking like from Surat, and in just I guess half an hour we'll be able to see the reality of the annular eclipse. Students from GD Goenka are live right now. I welcome you all. Thank you so much for being live on this session, live session. I'm trying to show you the eclipse in different places. And I guess this will make you believe that yes, we can see the solar eclipse. It's worldwide accepted greatest phenomena, and this is the live feed from.
As you have seen the previous video, now we will like to connect with Surat, the franchisee of Space India. We would like to invite Mr. Akash and have some discussion about today's solar eclipse. Hello, sir.
Hello, hi. Hi, hello Shivangi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, I'm doing good. I'm enjoying the Eclipse Festival of India.
So how do you feel like this would be the last solar eclipse to be visible from India? So, what do you think?
Yeah, so yes, I am actually excited to see the eclipse and to show it to the general masses as well. I've been doing live in Surat, that is in Gujarat, and around 70% of the eclipse is visible from Surat. My team is already working on it. Since we are experiencing rain as well, there are little showers of rain in Surat, but still we somehow managed, we somehow got clear skies and sun. So now, right now, I'm trying to show it to the students and to the people who are live on our page, and we are doing it live from the different part of the world as well. Jahan se solar eclipses are visible, so that people can see it and experience the solar eclipse, the annularity or the partial eclipse or the totality of the annular solar eclipse.
Tell us more about the eclipse. Like there are some myths as well that we can't see with the naked eye, or some Indian myths as well that we don't eat.
Okay, yeah. So when we talk about the myths, we cannot see it with the naked eyes, and that is true. That is a fact. We should never ever, try to look at the sun or the eclipse sun with the naked eyes, because this may cause serious injuries to our eyes, and this will result into the blindness, the permanent blindness. It can result into the permanent blindness. So you can see it with the help of some of the equipments which are made for looking at the sun. For example, solar view goggles. For example, pinhole projectors. If you don't have the pinhole projectors, you can just go out and see at the surface where the trees are casting the image of the sun, which is coming from the leaves. It also acts as a pinhole, and you can also see it with the help of welder's glass. Right? You can eat whatever you want to, and if you don't believe, I'll just eat it in front of you and see. Nothing will happen actually when I'll eat this. I'll take a bite of this biscuit. See, nothing happened. So since Sutak Kal is going on still, people, in news and on different places, people are saying we should not eat anything at the time of eclipse. We should not drink anything at the time of eclipse. So this is a complete myth, and we should never ever believe on these myths.
So what message would you like to the students about this? Like,
I'm so sorry, I cannot hear you. Will you please repeat it again, Shivangi? I can't hear you.
What kind of message do you want to share with the students out there?
Will you please put the mic closer to your mouth so that I can hear you out? I'm unable to hear you. There is, I guess, noise over there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah, loud and clear.
I want to know that what message you want to send to the school students out there about anything about get into about it.
I guess I'm so sorry. I guess there is some network problem, Shivangi. Your voice is, cracking a lot. But will you please repeat it for me once again? I'm so sorry for the last time, because I guess there is some noise, around you. So I am unable to hear, or there is some internet glitch.
I want to say, what kind of message do you want to send to the school student out there to spare some enthusiasm?
Okay, so right now a lot of schools are looking at our live feeds. The only thing I want them to experience is that how this eclipse is happening. I want to impart the knowledge of you. I want them to search for the eclipses on the websites as well. I want them to learn about the eclipse. Moreover, I want the schools to make sure that they are making such arrangements or something so that all the students can see the eclipse. Their parents should also be educated regarding the eclipse part, because yesterday when I was doing the preparation for the solar eclipse, one of the students said that my parents don't want me to see the eclipse, and that was a heartbreaking sort of thing, that why are we doing this? We need, the agenda of even this Space India is to break the myth and to make sure that we are imparting, we are increasing the scientific temperament into the society. So there is a very big responsibility of the new generation of the students, that they educate the people around them as well. They should show the eclipse to them, the people around them as well. They should educate their family, their parents, and their friends as well. More and more communication of science and astronomy and space sciences should be done among the masses. So this is what I want the students to do.
Yeah, this is very soon to be noted. I would. Hello, I'm asking.
Yes, Yohan. Yeah.
I know about your previous eclipse presentations experiences.
I guess, yeah. Just a second, Shivangi. I just need to. Yeah, I can hear you now, Shivangi. Go ahead.
I would like to know about previous eclipse experiences. Like recently we had lunar eclipse. So what were the things you did?
Okay, so previously, when we talk about the previous things, I'll start from the very starting part. Even Space India did amazing. We did actually a very amazing event in Bihar when the eclipse was visible in the presence of the then Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, where around 1.4 lakh people observed the eclipse. All are doing great, all are safe. So now there is no question of myths related to it, right? And when we talk about, after that, we did a lot of eclipses as well. Space India did eclipse chasing as well. Space India is known as the eclipse chasers. We are pioneers in eclipse chasing, right? So Space India did it in the Oman, right? We did eclipse chasing in Oman by the name of the event was UTC. Then we did the total lunar eclipse in January. So what we did was we called some of the students and parents, around 300 students and parents were present at that time in January 2018. That is the lunar eclipse, total lunar eclipse was there. It was so amazing that the crowd went wow. Right? सब बिल्कुल amazed हो गए थे उसको देख करके. We break the myths as well. हमने myth break किए बहुत सारे, और हमने बच्चों को बताया कि एक देख सकते हैं आप. उसके बाद अभी recently on 26 December 2019 सूरत में एक इवेंट यहाँ पर करी थी गुजरात के अंदर में, जहाँ पर different स्कूल के बच्चे हमारे पास आए थे, from Millennium School, from the Hillside School, from Aspire Public, from VN Godhani, from the GD Goenka as well. So we got students from different schools in our event where we did the annular solar eclipse event, और जहाँ पर हमने बच्चों को वो annular solar eclipse दिखा. Last time around 77% eclipse visible था from Surat. This time it's 70%, but pandemic की वजह से we are not able to conduct that particular event. We were excited to see that event, but this pandemic has ruined everything for us. But still, no problem. We are right now doing much better as we are live on Facebook, thanks to astronomy and space sciences, that we are able to communicate to the student with the help of satellite, Facebook, YouTube, and all these electronic medias, right? So this is what we are able to do, and we are right now we are showing better experience. We are giving better experience to the students as we are live from different places. We are showing the lucky people from different parts of the world and from the different regions, like Malaysia, UAE, and from Rajasthan, from Surat, from Bangalore. So I'm quite happy, to host this particular live from Space Surat. And thank you so much for the support from the Delhi team. They gave us the live feed link from where we can actually show the students that how exactly it looks like from Delhi or from the Rajasthan. I don't know exactly where we are live from. I support Rajasthan.
We are glad, Akash, that beside having COVID situation, we can broadcast it in a wider way. I would like to also know that we are having future eclipses too, but that are not visible from India. So how are we representing it?
Okay, so for example, right now we are doing it from the Surat, and when there will be future eclipses as well for sure, but it's not visible from India. But In 2031, I guess the next annular solar eclipse is visible from India. That is also the part. And, but yes, we'll show the live feed on our Facebook. We'll show us the live feed from the different part of the world, like we are doing it right now. So whenever eclipse is there, we'll be always there to show the live feed. We'll always be there to show the live feed. Right now, the clouds are not there in the sky in Surat. So I guess some of the clouds are not over there, and we can actually see how it looks like from a telescope. It's beautiful. Right now, I'm looking exactly at the crescent sun. Yes, the word is crescent sun. The moon has taken a bigger bite from the sun, and now it's like a thick banana in the sky. And we can see from Surat by using the telescope with the solar system.
So Akash, we would just end this discussion right now, and we'll have a look at the live eclipse footage.
Yeah, that is what
Now we'll go live and have the live image footages of the lunar solar eclipse from the virtual telescope from different countries.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, my name is Shantanu, and I'm an astronomy educator with Space India. And I hope everyone is excitedly, observing the eclipse through various safe methods. I hope no one's taking, chances with their eye safety, because that is very important. But today is a very important day, especially for the citizens of India. This eclipse might not happen again in the next century. Right. So it's an occasion when the whole country as a whole is observing the eclipse, right? Every part of the country is able to see some part of the eclipse. So I am going to show you a presentation right now. And in this presentation, I'm going to tell you about the eclipses. I'm going to tell you what they are, right? What are the different kinds of eclipses? And I'm also going to tell you how you can safely observe them. So if you're someone who hasn't figured it out right now, till now, and you want to observe the eclipse, and we all know that the maximum is going to happen somewhere around 12, a little bit after that, in various parts of the country. So if you want to observe at least the maximum part, I am going to tell you how you can do that. So with no further ado, let's continue with the presentation part. So I'll just share the screen, everyone. Okay. So I over here, I am going to show you a presentation. And in this presentation, I'm going to focus mostly on solar eclipses. But I will be discussing a little bit about lunar eclipses also, what they actually are. Right. Now, as we all know that today's eclipse, the annular solar eclipse of 21st June 2020, is also called the Ring of Fire eclipse. Ring of Fire. Why? Why is it called the Ring of Fire eclipse? The reason is very simple, that the moon, when it covers the sun during the maximum part, it leaves out a little bit ring of the sun, right? So it's not able to cover the whole sun completely, and we see a ring on the main shadow, right? So what is the main shadow? What is the different parts of the shadow, and why are not all the places able to see the ring of fire? So let's understand that, so that we are better educated about the event. So, what is an eclipse, right? So, in very simple words, eclipse happens when one body comes in between two bodies, okay? And one of those bodies has to be the sun. So, either the earth comes between the sun and moon, or the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. And what happens is the shadow, and this is the main part. Eclipse is called the game of shadows, right? So the shadow of the object in the center falls on the other object. So, for example, today the shadow of the moon is falling on Earth. So all the places inside the shadow are going to see the eclipse, right? Similarly, during a lunar eclipse, the shadow of the Earth falls on the moon. So, in simple words, eclipse is the blocking of the sun by either the moon or the Earth. So over here, I am going to tell you about two major types of eclipses, right? So these two eclipses involve the eclipsing of the sun either by the earth or by the moon. So the first kind of eclipse is the solar eclipse. Now, in the case of solar eclipse, the moon comes in between the sun and the earth. Now, as it comes in between them, the moon blocks certain part of the sun, right? And the shadow of the moon happens to fall on Earth. And that is what we call a solar eclipse. In the case of the Earth, when the Earth comes in between the sun and the moon, it is called the lunar eclipse, right? So in this case, the shadow of the Earth falls on the moon, right? So as the moon is going around the Earth, it happens to pass through the shadow of the Earth. Now, to begin our session, right, over here, yeah. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the lunar eclipse first, right? So we'll just have a quick run of what a lunar eclipse is. We'll discuss in a short brief, and then we'll move on to the eclipse of the day. So lunar eclipse occurs when the shadow blocks the sun's light. Earth's shadow blocks the sunlight, which through which the moon passes, right? Now, whenever the shadow forms, the shadow has various parts. Now, what do I mean by the various parts? So imagine this: you take a big light source, right? You take a big torch and you hold a ball in your hand, right? And when the ball blocks some light of the torch, there's a shadow maybe the shadow forms on a wall. Now, if you observe this shadow carefully, you will observe that the shadow has two parts. It has a central darker part, which we call the umbra, and around the umbra is the lighter part of the shadow, which we call the penumbra. Right now, as the moon revolves around the earth, right, and we know that the moon takes around 29 days to do so, so the moon happens to come inside this shadow of the earth. Right now, as the moon comes inside the shadow, if the moon passes only through the penumbra, only through the lighter part, and no part of the moon passes through the umbra, this is called the penumbral lunar eclipse. Right? So in the penumbral lunar eclipse, something like the one which happened on the earlier this month. So in that particular eclipse on the 7th of June, there was not much to see. Right? The reason was the moon was passing through the lighter part of the shadow. But if the moon, as it goes around the earth, passes through the darker part of the shadow, it passes through the umbra, in that case, we can have a partial lunar eclipse or a total lunar eclipse. So partial means less than full, right? So if just a part of the moon, not the whole moon, passes through the umbra or the darker part of the shadow, that is called a partial lunar eclipse. But if the complete moon as a whole passes through the shadow, that is what we call a total lunar eclipse. Right? So during a total lunar eclipse, we see what we call the blood moon, which is the red moon. Right? So the moon appears reddish in color, and the reason for that is quite simple. That since the earth has blocked all the light from the sun, right? So the moon is in the shadow. No light is coming directly from the sun. But the light that is passing through the atmosphere of earth gets bent towards the moon. Now, as it gets bent, and we know that the light from the sun is made up of 7 colors, right? What we call the vibgyor, the rainbow that we see. So out of all these 7 colors, the red color is the best color to cover the long distance, reach the moon, and get reflected back to our eyes. So that is why we see a red moon, and hence the name blood moon. Right? So back in the past, people did not understand eclipses very well, and as I go on in the later part, I'm going to tell you about the myths. I'm going to tell you about the superstitions. Right? So because of the red color, they thought that the blood moon or the moon is covered with blood, hence the name. So moving on, we come to solar eclipses, the main eclipse for today, the highlight eclipse for today. So a solar eclipse occurs when the moon comes in between sun and earth. That is something we have well established. So both the objects, the moon and the earth, always have shadows, right? Because the sunlight is falling on them every time. So every time the two bodies are going to have shadows. But what happens is, and this is once every month, then why don't we have an eclipse every month? Right? So the reason is that the orbit of the moon is actually a little bit tilted, right? So it just happens that the shadow of the moon, even though it might be between the earth and the sun, might not fall on earth. It might fall above earth, it might fall below earth, but not on earth, because the orbit of the moon is tilted, right? Similarly, because of the tilt of the orbit, the earth's shadow does not every time fall on the moon. But sometimes the alignment of the moon happens to be so amazing, so well, that the shadows fall on the other object, right? And that is what we see as an eclipse. So over here, we can see in the picture that the shadow of the moon is falling on the earth. Now, if we look a little bit carefully, we will see that the shadow has two parts. It has a darker part, right, which we call the umbra, and it has the lighter part, which we call the penumbra, right? So all the places on the surface of earth which have the lighter shadow, right, which are on the penumbra, will see a partial solar eclipse. So for all those places, they will only see a part of the sun being covered, not the whole sun, right? And that is something that is happening with the major part of the country today. So the major part of the country, like the capital, like the southern states, they will be seeing a partial solar eclipse. But for those lucky people who fall in the umbra, right, For them, the size of the moon is bigger or exactly matches the size of the sun. So they see a total solar eclipse. So the whole sun gets covered for them. Now today is the annular solar eclipse. So it's a even more special case. Now in this case, what happens is that the moon is a little bit far away from the earth, right? So instead of the umbra, the extension of umbra called the Antambra is what falls on the earth, right? So as you can see, and I'll explain it in the next slide also, that you can see that the umbra shadow is forming a triangle. So I can just use my imagination, and if I imagine that if I take earth farther away from the moon, the triangle will close, and as it goes far away, the triangle will start expanding again in the opposite direction. So as the triangle of the shadow will start increasing again, that is called the Antambra. So in the Antambra, when the earth is in the Antambra of the moon, we see a moon that is smaller than the sun in the sky, and a smaller moon will cover a smaller part of the sun, right? So over here, over here are the three parts, the three kinds of solar eclipses, right? So the first is a total solar eclipse. So the size of the moon in the sky is exactly like the size of the sun, right? So the moon, what happens is, how can the size of the moon be same as the sun? So though the moon is smaller than the sun, it's much smaller, but it's also much closer to us, right? Something that's closer to us appears bigger. Something that's farther will appear smaller. So Earth happens to be in such a privileged place, such a special position, that during sometimes the size of the moon is exactly the size of the sun, and the whole sun gets covered, right? Over here, the Earth is in the umbra of the moon. Then the second kind of eclipse, second kind of solar eclipse, is the annular solar eclipse. Annular solar eclipse is what we have today. So the moon is a little bit farther. So instead of being in the umbra of the moon, we are in the antambra, a little bit more farther from the umbra. So in the antambra part of the shadow, right? So antambra is the central part of the shadow when you are much farther from the object, and around it obviously is going to be the penumbra, the lighter part. So in the antambra, the moon is going to appear smaller than the sun. So as we can see in the picture, a little part of the sun is left out, right? And it forms like a ring around the moon when the moon is in the center of the sun, which we call the annular ring. So annulus is a word in Latin which means ring, okay? And hence it has the name ring of fire. So that is the annular solar eclipse, and in both the eclipses, both the total solar eclipse and the annular solar eclipse, those places which are in the penumbra of the shadow, in the lighter part of the shadow, they get to see a partial solar eclipse. So we are going to see a crescent sun in this case, right? So not the whole sun is going to get covered, but depending on how far you are from the main shadow, from the darker shadow, the lesser and lesser sun will be observed, right? Or the lesser part of the sun will be covered. So that is, or those are the kinds of solar eclipses that we experience from the Earth. So over here, just to better explain you, as I was saying, that what is the Antambra? So as you can see in this picture, right? So if I take the Earth considerably far away from the moon, the umbra extends to form the Antambra. The Antambra is a little bit lighter than the umbra, but it's still darker than the penumbra, right? So the Antambra again is also surrounded by the penumbra, right? So over here, when the Earth is in the Antambra of the moon appears smaller, and we are going to see a annular solar eclipse. Now, you must be wondering that, what is going to be special about this annular solar eclipse, the one that we are going to have today, or we are having today? So a lot of things are special. First of all, it's a solstice annular solar eclipse, right? So this eclipse is happening today on the 21st of June. 21st of June is the summer solstice of the northern hemisphere, the longest day in the northern hemisphere, right? This kind of eclipse will happen again in the year 2039. And even then, you cannot be sure that it's going to pass through the country of India. Over here, the whole country is going to observe this particular eclipse, right? The one that is going to happen today is happening today. The other thing very special about this eclipse today is that it's one of the longest eclipses observed. It stretches complete two continents from the central parts of Africa to the southern parts of Europe, through northern India, engulfing the whole of India in its penumbra, through the southern Pakistan, moving on to the southern part of China. So a major part of the world comes under the path of this eclipse. But the eclipse is a little bit shorter compared to the other eclipses. So today's annular solar eclipse is going to last for somewhere around 1 minute 30 seconds near Africa, and for India, it's going to be somewhere around 38 seconds to 19 seconds to 38 seconds. Right? So the duration of the maximum eclipse is going to be a little bit short. But do not let that sadden you, people, because this eclipse is also the deepest eclipse in the next decade. What do I mean by deepest? Is that even though the moon will not cover the whole of the sun, even for places that are in the Antambra, but it's going to cover 0.99 part of the sun, or 99% part of the sun, right? So 99% of the sun is going to get covered, so that's almost the whole sun. So this is the closest we can go to a total solar eclipse without actually having a total solar eclipse. Something like this will happen again in the year 2034, but during that time, again, the path might not fall on the complete Indian continent, Indian subcontinent, right? So over here, this is what makes it very special, and it's very rare for an eclipse to happen again in the same place. A particular location might have to wait 300 years to have an eclipse again. So unless you have any travel plans to chase eclipses in the future, or you're someone who doesn't travel a lot, this is a golden opportunity for you. So after establishing, I guess, the importance of today's annular solar eclipse, I will be moving ahead to the next part where I come to discussing the unsafe methods of solar observation. Now, it has happened with me. I am a victim. I'll accept that. My parents have been so, right? Most people who are elderly than me have been a victim to this, that there are certain methods of solar observation which we assume to be safe but aren't. The first and foremost, as is very clear, is that looking at the sun directly is not safe. That is the most uh, clear unsafe method, right? We cannot stress it more, that if you observe the sun without any safety, you will turn blind. Okay, so first of all, naked eye observation of the sun is not safe. Now, first let's understand that why can we not look at the sun, right? What is there that harms us? Now, there is a common misconception that it is the harmful light, or it's the bright light of the sun that is harming us. It's not. The When we learn about the sun, we learn that the sun gives out heat and light. So the heat coming along with the sun is what's harmful. So our lenses, they focus the heat inside our retina. So retina is the back part of the eye, where we can see the images, whatever the world around you you're seeing, the colors that you're seeing form on the retina. Now the retina lacks something, and that something are pain receptors. So the retina, because it has no pain receptors, cannot feel the pain that is happening, the pain that happens during the burning of the retina, and slowly you turn blind. Then another wrong method of observing eclipses is using X-rays. X-ray films reduce the light. They are not good absorbers of heat. They do not absorb the heat that is coming from the sun. So though they might increase the time it takes for your eyes to have any appreciable harm, but that again is harming, slowly, but it is. And in the past, Galileo Galilei, who was called the father of modern astronomy, he invented the refractor telescope, and he was one of the first people to observe the sun using the telescope. And he used a filter to observe the sun, but that filter was not of a very good quality, right? And eventually he turned blind. So to avoid that fate, we should avoid using, the incorrect methods like photographic films, negatives. These, they because we associate eye damage with the light, and they reduce the light. We think they are safe methods, but they are not. They are actually going to harm our eyes, and that's going to have a bad, that's going to have a big repercussion on us. So moving ahead, what are the other unsafe methods? Sunglasses. Sunglasses are just called the sunglasses because they reduce the glare of the sun, right? But not the heat. Even if you use multiple layers of X-rays, multiple layers of photographic films, multiple sunglasses, it's going to reduce the light. It will not absorb the heat effectively. Another very unsafe method is to observe the sun during sunset and sunrise. And it's a very common misconception that I've faced that during sunset and sunrise, the sun gets dimmer. So everything reduces, the harmful radiation reduces, but it's not so. Heat, the radiation of heat is very good in passing through the atmosphere, in passing through gases. So though light, the visible light is not as good, so the light gets blocked and we see a dim sun. But the heat is still able to pass through the clouds, right, through the atmosphere. And we see, we see a dim sun, and what happens is our pupils open up, more light enters, and along with more light, more heat is going to enter. So even during sunset or sunrise, it's suggested that do not look at the sun directly. Now, if these are the unsafe methods, what are you left with? Not everyone is going to have a solar filter at their homes, right? So how can you be a part of this amazing observation? So that is something that I'm going to tell you right now, right? What are the safe methods of solar observation? So the first and foremost is that if you have a telescope, use a filter on the telescope. The filter should be tight enough, it should not fly away, and the filter should be put up on the objective, right? So objective is the part from where the light is entering. The filter is not attached on the eyepiece from where you see, not over there. It should be on the objective. Then the other method is using welder's glass, and every welder glass has a rating, right, on how much heat or light it can absorb. So a welder's glass of 14 or more higher rating is recommended for solar observation. Then we have ball projectors. So ball projectors are simple, simple mirrors. They are balls with mirrors attached to them. So the reflection of the sun on a screen that is far enough appears on the screen, and you see a circular projection of the sun. Then you have solar viewers. Solar viewers are made up of special materials that can absorb the heat. For example, the solar viewers that we make at space are made up of carbon polymers, which is carbon is very good at absorbing heat, right? Another kind of material that is used in solar viewers is the mylar sheet, which is a very good insulator, right? So mylar sheet and carbon polymers, they have a rating called ND rating or neutral density, which is something like the rating of the welder's glass, that how much light is being absorbed, how much heat is being absorbed. So for that, a solar viewer better than 4 ND rating is always suggested. And in the end, the most common method is the pinhole projector or the pinhole camera. Now, how can you make a pinhole camera? Supposing you do not have a mirror, small enough mirror, how do you make a pinhole camera? Very simple. What you can do is take 2 sheets of paper. One of the papers will be the screen. Okay. The other paper, just make a pinhole. So you can use a safety pin, you can use a thumb pin, just make a tiny hole, right? And the hole might look small, but it's more than enough. You do not need to make the hole bigger inside, just a small prick on the paper, on the sheet, right? It's suggested to use a thick paper, right? So once you make the hole, you can hold the pinhole in front of the screen, right? And the sun is going to be in that direction. So the sun passes through the pinhole and forms a projection on the paper. Now, what you can do is, to get a little bit creative, you can draw something on the paper with the pinhole, and you can make multiple pinholes along the boundary. So on the paper, on the screen, on the other paper, you are going to get multiple pictures of the sun, multiple projection of the sun in the same pattern. So that is something you can get creative with, and is a very easy and accessible method for solar observation. So there are a lot of myths attached to solar eclipses and lunar eclipses, mostly because in the past people did not understand how did they work. A lot of cultures came up with the stories of dragons, of big wolves, of frogs, right, in the sky that are eating up the sun or the moon, because they were mostly surrounded by these animals, or they considered these animals important or these creatures important, and the only explanation they could come up was this, right? So the mythologies have affected a lot, but it's not so. There are no monsters in the sky, right? There's nothing eating this sun or the moon. It's just the motion of the sun and the moon that affects that appears as the eclipse, right? So in the ancient times, the explorers thought the eclipse was because of monsters. Like Indians have Rahu and Ketu, but that's not true. Eclipses are not going to harm you. They are not going to harm your food. It's completely safe. And I am eating during an eclipse. I'll make sure I eat during that. So it's always safe to eat or step out during eclipse. But if you are going to observe a solar eclipse, use protection. So I'll end it with a very fun fact that eclipse never comes alone. Okay, there is always a like for example, today's a solar eclipse, so there was or will be a lunar eclipse 14 days before or after. So we had a penumbral lunar eclipse 14 days earlier, right, on the 7th of June. So that is the interesting fact I want you to go away with. And I hope if you do not have an observation methods, you bring out those two pieces of paper and make a hole in one. Okay, so with this we come to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you learned something new, and
All right.
Neeraj, are you there?
Hello.
Hi. Hello, Neha ma'am.
Hello.
Hello, ha ma'am.
Yes. Yes. So we have Yogesh Kumar Joshi, senior educator from Space India Technology, and plus we have team from Chennai, Mr. Neeraj Ladia, the head of Chennai department from Space India. So I want to know, Yogesh, from you first, that just let me know that how is your experience of solar eclipse in Kurukshetra? So we just get to know that you and your team is there in the Kurukshetra. You have captured your solar eclipse.
Actually, ma'am, we have moved a bit away from Kurukshetra and we have came
Yes.
we have came towards Suratgarh. Now, currently my location is Suratgarh, Rajasthan. Okay,
All right.
and over here the sky conditions are very clear. So we are observing. We all are busy observing the eclipse from starting till end, and we are hoping that the sky remains same. The best
Okay.
part, like I observed the annular of 2019 Oman as well, but there it was cloudy in between. So it was like at the time of annular ring, it was little bit cloudy. Now today, when I saw the annularity for the whole duration, like it was for 37 seconds over here, and it was like I had goosebumps. Now, if I talk about like at my particularly at my place, so I'm on the roof of a hotel, and the
Okay.
nearby peoples they are here. Like even after maintaining the social distance, we are doing one experiment here, and that experiment is we are busting a myth. That is, people they are
Okay.
having biscuits at the time of eclipse. So over here we are doing the myth busting experiments, and
Very
Karan
nice.
sir of our team, he is doing the myth busting experiment. I want to just move my camera, right? I'm
Yes, I just want you to, Yogesh, to just show us
just
the
just
audience, because
one
as
second,
you
one second.
know,
So
yeah.
over here, you can see there are
Wow.
people over here. All of them, they have seen the eclipse of 37 seconds, and they are doing the myth busting experiment. Everyone
Great,
over here,
Yogesh.
they are taking up something, right? And we are busting this myth that you cannot eat anything during an eclipse. So right now the
Yes.
eclipse is going on. It's 12:15 right now. So annularity has gone over. It's like third contact is also over. Right. We are
Yeah.
moving towards like moon is going away from the central portion, and over here everyone you can see they are doing the myth busting. We have done the other experiments
Yes.
as well. We are busting the myths. You can see at first people they are
They are enjoying the food, and
yeah,
plus they are, they
now
are forgetting.
everyone is taking. Now everyone is taking.
Yes.
And you can see.
And Yogesh, here I want to stop you and just want to tell you that as this pandemic is happening, the coronavirus is going on, but still people are so crazy and passionate to observe the solar
Yes,
eclipse, right? The
yes.
last solar eclipse of this year, which is visible and which we can witness from India of 2020. So it's a beautiful way out of there in Kurukshetra, and we can see space team how they are handling and how they are showing the annular solar eclipse to the people, and they have already witnessed it. And last, now we are to the third contact of annular solar eclipse. Okay, coming back to the Chennai team, Mr. Neeraj Ladia, sir, I just want to know that how the scenario is over here regarding that solar eclipse. So just share some experience of yours.
Hi Neha, hello everyone, hello viewers. Chennai is actually not a very good eclipse because we starting in the morning we had some clouds, then it got clear a bit, but it was still very hazy and partially cloudy. So we got the initial views of the eclipse, but when we came to the maximum eclipse around 11:55, it was somewhat clear, but as soon as around 12 o'clock noon time, almost it got cloudy and hazy, and right now it's overcast and we are not able to see anything. But overall, I must say that from because we can see the annularity eclipse, it's a partial eclipse from here. So we were able to see till 11:30, 11:40. We were able to see 11:50 also. We were able to see, not exactly at the maximum eclipse, the time was not good. But I can see over here, though it's cloudy, but it has got dark here. So the
Okay.
general thing, we can see that it has suddenly got dark in here. And during that time, I also noticed some strange things over here, like I could see birds flying in haywire directions. Like some of the birds were
Oh,
flying in some other direction. So it was like some chaotic situation going on in the sky. So one thing I
all
noticed,
right.
and there was sudden darkening also here, not too much, but there was certain darkening also. And as the
Mm-hmm.
eclipse moved forward, and obviously I'm
Okay.
also going to do my myth breaking, and I'm going to have an apple right now.
Very nice. Very nice. So the team from Chennai, they are actually breaking the myth by having some food and so is enjoying
Just
an
enjoy
apple.
the eclipse and not do the
Though the weather, yeah, though the weather is not favorable, but still we can have, some expectations with us.
hopefully.
So moving back to the Kurukshetra team, Yogesh, do you want to experience some? Sorry, do you want to share some more experience with us that what more we are actually doing over there? Yeah.
You can see over here that people they're trying to observe the sun from H alpha. Here you can see one of the setup we have put up for the photography, right? So as there is a lot of heat coming, so that's why we have kept covered our lenses from this.
Yes,
sheet
yes.
over
Yogesh,
here.
I just want to know. I just want to tell you that I just share some experience with the audience that what safety methods and
Okay.
precautions you are actually following during this time. This is very
Okay,
much
so
important.
first of all, we maintain the social distancing thing, right? We all are like a bit far away, and right now everyone they are doing that myth busting thing. So their masks are off their face, right? They're having something, so the masks are off, but you can see people they're observing the eclipse from their goggles, and yeah, I'm having some people with me. I want them to share their experience. Can I call them? Can I call them?
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, so over here we have one sir over here, and there's one student over
And
here.
students are also here. We are amazed to see that.
No, I'm just going to take his words, right? So, what is your name? Manaswar Parekh. So, Manaswar, ये आपका पहला eclipse था?
Yeah, it was my first eclipse in my life.
So, how was your experience?
It was just really awesome, and it was amazing. When it came like around the sun, I took goosebumps, and it was really just awesome.
Great. So, sky आपने dark होता हुआ देखा यहाँ पे?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. So, ma'am, ये एक experience है. Like this was one of the experience that we have seen. Similarly, there are 25 other experience. They have observed that the light it went down at up to a considerable level. Here you can see Taran sir. He is explaining the concept to the people who are asking questions related to eclipse, right? And you can see we have also put up time lapse over here. This is one camera. On the other camera, we are going. You can see we are recording the eclipse. Like it's under the towel actually, right? But you can see if I take you to the screen, so you can see that it is recording the eclipse over there. Okay.
Very nice. Excellent, Yogesh. It's just, I'm just amazed to see that students are also part of this annular solar eclipse and how they are coming and, taking all the precautions and they are witnessing this annular solar eclipse, which is going to be an end of this year. Very nice, Yogesh. And moreover, I guess so many people are actually joining us and they are taking part in it. And plus they are breaking the myths. Apart from that, anything else you want to share with us, Yogesh, about the weather conditions?
Ma'am, only one message from my side that it is not going to happen again in upcoming years. So it's my kind request to all of you, all those who are watching it over here on the Space India's page. You don't have to do anything special, even if you don't have anything. What you can do is you can simply see the sun through the pinhole projection method. I can show you one very simple way, and what we have done over here is like we have already taken. You can.
Yes.
I'm going to show you one method, right, by which people can see. See, many people right now today are.
Yogesh, I want to ask that you just tell our audience that this method is basically the projection method, right?
Yes, ma'am. This is pinhole projection method. So you can see on the top, I have taken this logo, the space logo, and in that space logo, I made some dots. I made some pin-sized holes.
Very
And I'm
nice.
going to take you over here. So on the screen, you can see very beautiful crescent sun over here. So all the images over here, these are the pin size images of the eclipse sun. So you don't need anything special at your home. You just need a white paper and anything to make a hole in that. That is one thing. The second way, what you can do is you can simply cross your fingers, right? You can simply take your hand, cross your
It's
fingers, and
amazing.
you
Yes.
can make a grid on the ground and you can see the eclipse on the ground. So you
Yeah,
can see
very nice.
how they're excited to see each and every new experiment here, right? And
Yeah.
that's like that's what I want to share with everyone. That please enjoy this beautiful celestial alignment going on.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. Thanks for connecting with us. And I hope again the weather is
Welcome, ma'am.
favorable to you and
It's
people are
favorable, ma'am.
enjoying. We can see. And moreover, I just want to thank Chennai team as well for breaking the myths. And sir is still enjoying the apple, right, sir?
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Ladia, sir? Yes, thank you so much for joining with us, Mr. Yogesh Kumar Joshi and Mr. Ladia, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
You're
everyone.
welcome, ma'am. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye.
going to discuss with us regarding this annular solar eclipse. What is your idea and what is like your opinion regarding the solar eclipse?
Solar eclipse is very important phenomena for not only scientists, for everybody who are interested in science and technology.
Yes, sir.
Earlier, say about 2 decades back, people used to have lots of myths and superstitions. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist now, but what we have observed, it has gained at least some momentum that people are in general curious to watch solar eclipse, and they many of them have able to come out of this superstitions and myths. So that's the first aspect. All these programs, like science communicators, what they do to try to give out the scientific explanation of all these types of eclipses. Like here now we are going for annular solar eclipse. Sometimes there's a total solar eclipse, and the reason of these eclipses is been explained. So many of the people, many people who are having superstitions or myths in their mind, they are able to come out of their dogma and able to understand that there's nothing more than a natural phenomena. Apart from that, there are many interesting stories. Like there are many interesting scientific discoveries and validation of facts happened throughout last 100 years or so. Like Einstein's theory of general theory of relativity, it was validated. He proposed in 1915, and it was validated during 1919 total solar eclipse. So that was a validation, observational validation during total solar eclipse. So similarly, there are many other discoveries took place, like discovery of helium, 1958. At that time, it also total solar eclipse helped in discovering helium in sun first time. So there are different aspects of the eclipses. That's why it always intrigues everybody whenever there's eclipse to go and watch and at least discuss and talk about that. That's very important.
Okay, so here I just want to highlight one thing to the audience and Dr. Nath, that you have published and written several books as well in international and national journals. So I just want to discuss this. Is there any book related to, the stories of eclipses, stories of astronomy facts, story of space sciences? So can you tell us something related to it, that what kind of books you have been published and what is your idea of consideration related to the eclipses and all?
Many of my papers are highly technical. That's for computer science, distributed computing. That's not related to astronomy. I'm not an astronomer, so there are many people who have written. Definitely, they have written on astronomy, on eclipses. There are plenty of books. But I myself have not written any books on eclipses or astronomy.
Okay, Dr. Nath, so Dr. Nath, what do you think that people of our culture, people of Hindu religion, that they think that solar eclipse is kind of an abhishap hai ye hamare liye, right? So do you think that some kind of facts you actually you mean that it's true, or you believe that people should witness it, that they should go out and they should see that it's a natural phenomenon? So just tell us, audience, that what is your idea of regarding solar eclipse?
That's precisely the point I wanted to mention it here initially in my talk, that solar eclipse or lunar eclipse comes with lots of myths, superstitions, and many people, majority, they do believe that something to do with something evil phenomena. Without realizing that's absolutely natural phenomena. It happens every year. Let me also tell you that every year there may be minimum 2 eclipses and maximum 5 solar eclipses. And total lunar plus solar eclipses happen 7. Okay, it cannot exist more than 7. There is scientific explanation for that. So we need to empower. We need to empower people to think beyond that. What they have, they knew it since their childhood, perhaps from their elderly, that this is something to do with evil, something to do with wrong things, or you should not do this, do not do that. Nothing like that. Absolutely, solar eclipse is a natural phenomena. The way sun, every day we see sun and then it rises and then it sets. Same as the solar eclipse. Only when it's when moon comes between sun and the earth, we get solar eclipse. When earth comes between moon and the sun, it's a lunar eclipse. So nothing beyond
Yes.
that, nothing beyond that. So it's very important that we teach people to come out of their social, this dogma and stigma, and understand the scientific phenomena, and try to understand that beauty, not the beauty that which offers while you watch annular solar eclipse, a total solar eclipse, rather than sitting inside the home and doing something which is the ritualistic, which has no scientific validity. And many people actually do propagate this time. They do try to propagate that this is the time you should not do this thing, you should not do that thing. That's something we need to get rid of this, and all of us need to actually come out and more in public forum, and to tell as many people as possible, especially the children, the students, to tell them. I'm sure the students already, they know it from the school, but still to empower them to be able to talk about the eclipse, to be able to explain the scientific phenomena, so that no superstition can precede the scientific phenomena. The science should actually oversee every, it should supersede every of this, social stigma, this myths and superstition.
Oh, very nice. Dr. Nath, you just let us know, is there any, experience of yours that you have witnessed the solar eclipse, as we have so many of solar eclipse in the past years as well? The one solar eclipse was the annular solar eclipse in the year, like in 2019 only, on 26th December. So you just let us know that, have you ever experienced with your eyes, or have you ever gone to the,
yes. I'd like to talk about 2009, not 19, 2009. I actually,
2009, it's a long back.
Right, but the reason I'm telling you, actually that time, we collaborated with the Indian Air Force. And from Antambra base station, actually I was on that flight, this AN32 flight. And I know we were at 25,000 feet with all the oxygen mask and everything, and the ramp was open in front of us, and actually watched that total solar eclipse directly. It's in front of us without any disturbances, and we watched it. And actually our flight was actually covering the entire path. So from Agra we went till that, up to Guwahati, and then came back.
Very nice.
That was a wonderful experience. I know it's mesmerizing. Nice. Actually, you forget everything. We, in fact, forgot the purpose that we have to take data, we have to collect photographs. We kept on watching for some moments. In fact, we were supposed to get this, oxygen level indicator was there, so that we could actually indicate them that Air Force people that there's oxygen level less. And it happened with me that I actually forgot that. And fortunately, somebody, Air Force guy, actually noticed that my oxygen level, cylinder is empty. It came replaced. I did not even know that it was replaced. So it was such a mesmerizing view, and it's something breathtaking, and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Thank you for reminding me. In fact, I still remember.
Even we have enjoyed your experience as well, sir. Okay, being like from computer science and engineer background, you just let us know, and I want you to share this experience with the audience as well, that how you have generated and you have developed, the interest for this astronomy and space sciences, because an engineering student, a student who is intelligent computer science, so their astronomy is, far beyond the limit. So how this interest you have inculcated in yourself?
See, for every scientist, we are practicing scientists. It's very important that we have a social responsibilities as well, apart from my own research area, which is distributed computing. But apart from that, all scientists we do have a social responsibility, where we need to reach out to people to tell about this research is happening, and science and technology development, which our countries are going through, and the global position. It's very important that we come up and speak about. And this kind of opportunities like the solar eclipse, this gives an opportunity to talk to many people. Like say, many people are approaching us to talk about this, solar eclipse. So these are the approaches. These are the opportunities that it gives us to connect to the people, as many as possible, so that we can talk about science, pure science, and we disseminate it. We need this kind of opportunities. And thank you thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk to your audience as well.
Yeah, it's very, even we actually feeling so humble, and we are also pleased that you are sharing this experience. Plus, I want you to ask Dr. Nath that anything that you need to share with our wonderful audience, or any message regarding this solar eclipse, as we are also aware that some people of our country, of our nation, like they are believing in some kind of myths as well, that during this time we cannot go out, during this time we cannot eat, or during this time we have to be at only one particular place, so we cannot involve ourselves in any kind of activities. So apart from that, when this natural phenomenon is actually happening, we actually have to witness this, because it's happening once in a lifetime, or we can say it's happening after so many years. So why should we not witness this wonderful experience of the solar eclipse, and why we actually tell our audience that they should see this beautiful ring of fire today? It's actually happened already, and we have actually shown our audience as well. So any message from your side that you want to share, and according to you, what you believe that you should tell audience, so that they can have a belief in this thing, and they should start focusing on this thing as well?
See, we are actually at present this pandemic situation due to COVID-19, and there are social distancing. There are things to be maintained. Maintain all the requirement things, requisite things. Do not overrule any of those things. But apart from that, if you are able to watch solar eclipse with protective gears, it's very important that we have protective gears while watching solar eclipses with a filter, proper filter. Watch it, because that's a natural phenomena, and similar annular solar eclipse is going to come another 10 years, 2031, to be able to watch it. And although it's 2023, there is one solar eclipse, but India will not be able to observe that. So it's another 10 years or more, so you have to wait it. So you rather take this opportunity to watch this wonderful phenomena what nature has given you. Even not, if you are not able to watch it, still talk about that. Do some activities with the children. And that precisely is going to spread the message of science and technology throughout the masses.
Yeah, so Dr. Nath, thank you so much that you have actually shared your wonderful experience and how we can witness this annular eclipse. And plus, in the coming years as well, whenever this eclipse is happening, make sure we need to be very precautionary, and we need to take precautions, because as you know that it's very, we cannot see it with the naked eyes, right? So it's very harmful to see this. Exactly. So before doing that, it's not only just we are just asking you to witness it, but yes, precautions are very, very necessary before witnessing it. As sir said, we can use some kind of goggles over there, because there are some special goggles which is called as solar goggles. Exactly.
Goggles,
and
it's actually with the Mylar filter, which is graded as solar.
Plus there are some welding. Plus, there are some specialized welding glasses as well, which is having number 14, right? So we can use that, or we can use or we can purchase them from the market as well. And apart from that, you can go for that specialized goggles. And if you are having telescopes at your home, you can, of course, have filters with it, right? So we cannot point out the telescope directly.
Otherwise, projection will work. If you from telescope, you project it on a paper and then watch it. It doesn't need also telescope. If you have a pinhole camera or a mirror, through mirror, you project it on the wall, then you watch it. But direct watching is very, very dangerous, and you have to have all the precautions.
Yeah, so we call it as projection method as well. So thank you so much, Nath Sirji, for connecting with us. It was a wonderful experience, and thanks for sharing your opinions and views with us regarding the solar eclipse. And I hope audience really enjoyed this session and really got an information from you. And I hope in future as well, we are trying to connect you and we'll be having more interactions with you. So till the time, thank you so much. And thanks for giving your precious time for us. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Lot, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Shantanu and I'm back again. And I hope you have enjoyed the talk that we had right now. And you enjoyed learning about the eclipse with us and you enjoyed the live coverage with us from various places. And before we move on towards the fourth contact, which will happen somewhere around 118, 120, before moving over towards that, I am going to use a little bit of this time to tell you something about Heliodc. So Heliodc, so Helio means the sun, and Odyssey means a journey, right? A journey of finding something. So Heliodc is a solar scientific expedition, right? That is organized by Space India, in which we select students through competitive exams from throughout the country, and we take them on a fully sponsored expedition, a fully sponsored scientific expedition to observe and study eclipses. So we did the same last year in the month of December, 26th December, when we had the annular solar eclipse, which was best visible from Oman, and in India it was best visible from the state of Kerala. So we took the top 20 students to the Sultanate of Oman, right, on a completely fully sponsored trip where they conducted various experiments. They measured the weather parameters. They clicked pictures of the eclipse, and I guess it's safe to say that they had a wonderful lifetime experience. On the same hand, a team of ours went to Kerala under the Ring of Fire, where our team of experts conducted various observations, various experimentations again, and organized a public observation for everyone. So I am going to share the report of the Heliodc 2019, and in that, I'm going to tell you what did we achieve and what did we learn from the experience, what did the students do, and basically take you on a small journey of the progress of our initiative, the progress of our expedition. So Heliodc, if I have to, just put it in a very simple word, was a solar scientific expedition, right? The study of the science of the sun, right? Study what happens during eclipses. So under Heliodc 2019, right, a lot of students from all over the country appeared for an examination, and the best of them, those who had a strong grasp of the sciences, of astronomy, of mathematics, got a chance to go on a fully sponsored trip to the Sultanate of Oman. So over here is a feedback by one of our Eclipse winners, and they are the parents of the Eclipse winner, Pratul Kumar Sahu, and they say that thanks to the entire Space India and Heliodc team for such a wonderful international exposure of the young astronomers. Right. So events like these, expeditions like these, expose the child to various range of ideas. You get to meet people who have similar ideas or maybe different, and you learn a different viewpoint. You learn how to effectively communicate your point. You learn how the science is actually done. In our schools, we do science by reading books, and that is something that we also do mostly in our colleges. But how is science actually done? Science is done through experimentation. Science is done to making a hypothesis, making an idea, and putting it to test to see if the idea works out, and to better understand how the nature works. So over here is a small brief of the Heliodc, right? That according to the 51H of our constitution, right, it is the responsibility to develop the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. This statement is mentioned in our constitution. The constitution of the biggest democracy in the world advocates the importance of having a scientific temper, having the curiosity in you. And under the same idea, under the same statement, was the birth of Heliodc, which is a flagship project of Space India, right? And over here, it is one of the most, as it says in the second last paragraph, that it is one of the most powerful forms of astronomy, space education, and space experiential learning program promoting STEM skills and hands-on learning by observation, analysis, and recording of eclipse. Right. So in Space India, we have always advocated the importance of hands-on education. A child would learn by reading books, but they would learn much better by doing it themselves. Maybe they do a small mistake, which helps them, actually better understand the concept, that how the mistake has affected their experiment. So over here is a picture of the team that went to the Sultanate of Oman, right? These are all our 20 winners, their parents, and our eclipse experts are two leaders. So three of our eclipse experts accompanied the team, which were Neeraj Ladia sir, who's the head of Space India Chennai branch. There was Sakshi ma'am, who was the two leader, right? And Yogesh sir, who was also the third team leader and is also the senior educator. So moving ahead, what were the main objectives of Heliodc, if I have to just point them out for you? So the project of Heliodc aims to take people or students specifically towards the idea of scientific India. India made by people who think logically, who think scientifically, and are able to change their views based on evidence. So the main objective was to bring out the confidence, curiosity, scientific literacy, and responsible self of every child and prepare them to be called Heliodicians. It also gave the child the benefit of exploring and traveling all over the world. Right. So in various Heliodices, which I'll be telling you about in a short while, we took students to various countries like Turkey, Russia, or Hong Kong, which exposed students to various cultures, various people. What are the lives of people in the different parts of the world? Right? Which gives them an exposure of being a part of a bigger species, crossing the boundaries of nations. Then the goal was also to reach out to the youth, provide them a nurturing environment and an opportunity to polish their skills through hands-on experimentation. So, as I've already stressed this point, that in an environment where you can talk about science, you can discuss your ideas, you can expose your ideas to criticism and also learn things new. That they act like a nutrition for your thoughts. They help your thoughts mature, they help your thoughts evolve. And lastly, through Heliodc, Space India intended to get the students in touch with the leading experts and professionals. Right. So one batch of a Heliodc actually met the then President APJ Abdul Kalam. Right. The students have also met eclipse experts, right? They have met scientists, and basically they have exposed themselves to a connection with people who are the experts or the leaders in their respective fields. So moving ahead, over here, let me take you through the journey of Heliodc. So the first Heliodc was on 29th March 2006, aimed at observing the total solar eclipse from Turkey. Right. After which, 2 years later, another total solar eclipse, right? And in this team, there were 40 professionals, right? And a setup of cameras, of instruments to measure the weather changes, and everything like that. So this again, the students were selected through examination, through national level examinations. Then in the year 2009, the very next year, the students, led by our late astronomer, Mr. C.V. Devdan sir, who was a very well renowned astronomer of the country and is one of the co-founders, right? He leaded a team of 10 brilliant students and 5 space eclipse experts to Hong Kong to observe the solar eclipse that was as long as 6 minutes and 39 seconds. So while they were on land, a group of 1.4 lakh people assembled, right, with the Chief Minister of Bihar, Mr. Nitish Kumar, the then Chief Minister. And in Bihar, it was one of the biggest accumulation of people to observe the eclipse. 1.4 lakh people accumulated in the same place to observe the eclipse, obviously through safe methods. Then moving on after the year 2009, for this next year, on 15 January, a team of ours went to observe the eclipse by air, land, and sea. Sorry. So over here, a team of ours was on an eclipse cruise to observe the eclipse that was happening on this day. So it was a total solar eclipse which lasted for 4 minutes and 41 seconds. Then in the year 2017, the Great American Eclipse. So our team headed by our CMD, Mr. Sachin Bhamba sir, and they went to USA to capture the total solar eclipse. And as you can see is a picture of the beautiful eclipse trail over here. Right. So this was the Great American Eclipse, something that had created a lot of hype, a lot of news everywhere. And carrying on the torch, carrying on the initiative, in the year 2019 came the latest Heliodc in the month of December 26th, where a team went to the Sultanate of Oman. They stayed in Muscat, and near Muscat, they went to Masira Island Resort, which was their main location, right? Just outside, just near or beside their experimentation area, right? So it was on a beach side. And in this particular eclipse, right? So the students arrived to the airport, they landed on Muscat, they went to their staying location, which was the Masira Island Resort. And just outside it was a beautiful beach. And on that beach, they set up the experiments, they set up their cameras, and every student had a role to perform. Even the parents who accompanied the students participated in the scientific research. So some students were tasked with clicking the pictures of the sun during the eclipse. Some students were tasked with creating a time lapse. Some were tasked by clicking the close-ups. Some were tasked by checking the temperature of air and soil. Some were tasked with measuring the relative humidity. So why were we conducting so many experiments, right? One reason was that during an eclipse, the sun gets blocked and then it's unblocked again. So the moon blocks the sun's light and then moves away. So in the short duration, we can experience how the weather changes in the short duration, what happens when the sun is not there, what happens when the sun is there, right? So instead of waiting for days, right, we're waiting for a full day to conduct all your experiment to see what happens in the duration of the whole day when the sun rises in the morning and sets in the night. You can just conduct the same experiment during an eclipse in the matter of a few hours. And then so understanding how the weather parameters like temperature, humidity, and pressure change helps meteorologists, scientists who study the weather and help predict it, better understand the weather of the Earth as a planet. So over here, there was a run through a day before the students practiced what they had to do. They also went around the city, they went around the local market. And once the eclipse was done and all the tensed state of mind went away, the students took out time for some exploration, right? So they went around the country, they went around the city of Muscat, they visited the Royal Palace, they visited amazing museums, and basically, as we said, that they exposed themselves to new cultures, and that is what they did. The point of Heliodc is not just understanding eclipses, it's also understanding people, understanding various ideas, understanding various customs, and understanding how you can share your own custom idea or experience with the other person. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the experiments that were conducted by our team of explorers. So one of the experiment was to measure the air temperature above the ground. And in this, what was expected was as the sun gets hidden, right, by the moon, so the temperature was supposed to fall down, right? In the same part, the temperature was supposed to fall down for the soil, but the dip in temperature for soil was supposed to be less compared to the dip in air. And that was something what our students observed during the experiment. So as the moon went away, right, after the third contact, after the moon, started going away from the sun and started exposing the sun, the temperature rised again. So that showed that the dip in temperature was because the moon was covering the sun. So that is one of our reinforcement or establishment that, the science that we know, the hypothesis was correct. Then moving ahead came our next experiment where we measured the relative humidity of the air. how much moisture is present in the air. So it was expected that with the increase in annularity as the eclipse went ahead, and it increased, the relative humidity would also increase. So there would be more moisture, more relative moisture in the atmosphere. And that was something that was observed. As soon as the maximum eclipse ended and the eclipse started reducing, right, the relative humidity started decreasing. So the pattern of increase in relative humidity and a decrease was observed. Then came our measurement of light intensity. Obviously, this was one of the most obvious experiments. It was expected that the intensity, the brightness around you would go down. And using special instruments, right, the luminosity or the brightness of the environment was measured. And it was found out that there was a dip observed as the eclipse began and during the maximum eclipse when the annularity was there, right. This was an eclipse similar to the eclipse that we had today. It was an annular solar eclipse. So during the maximum, the light intensity went down the most. And as again the eclipse started going towards the end, the slowly and slowly the brightness started increasing. Then coming on was the last experiment, the wind speed. So as the temperature changes, there's a expected change in pressure, the atmospheric pressure. And as the atmospheric pressure changes, there is an expected change in the speed of wind. The wind, this change in wind was observed, and there was observed that the wind speed decreased as the eclipse went ahead. So during annularity, the lowest wind speed was recorded, which matched our predictions, because lesser the temperature is, the wind. So using six experiments, using six very simple experiments, right, we were able to establish and confirm the knowledge that we had about the weather, about the working of the weather. And this study was used by our space experts to communicate it through the other experts of the field that this is our findings, and the science holds on. The science is strong, and what we predicted actually matches the experiment. So apart from the science, there was also the observation part. There was also the part where the students had to click the amazing pictures of the eclipse as it went on. So I am going to share some pictures of the eclipse clicked by our own Heliodicians, our eclipse ambassadors, what we call the students, the winners of a Heliodc. So the first three pictures that you see were clicked by Ekam Rajveer, who was one of our eclipse ambassadors, right? You can see the annular ring forming behind the clouds over here. So clouds are always something that you cannot predict for sure. You always know it might happen, it might not happen. And for most of the part, the sky was clear, but during the annularity, there were some clouds. But that actually, in my opinion, increased the beauty of the picture. It added some drama to it, if I must. Then the second set of pictures were clicked by another student, Chirag Mehta, and you can see the progress of eclipse over here. So the beautiful background of the beach, the waves of the sea, shown by the light of the eclipsed sun. Right. So the eclipse happens somewhere just near sunrise. So we can see the orange or reddish hue, the beautiful hue in the sky. Then is the next picture by another eclipse winner, another Heliodc winner, Soham Gupta. Right. So this is the partial stage of a annular solar eclipse. So the moon is still trying to cover the sun. Now, these were the pictures by our Eclipse ambassadors, by the students, by the amazing, talented students who won the Heliodc. Let's see what our space experts click, right? So, a team of three of our space experts were the two leaders who guided the students through every step, through every experiment, trained them, and briefed them on how everything was to be done. So, the complete success goes to the students under the leadership of these three people. So the first set of three pictures were clicked by Neeraj Ladia sir, right? So over here you can see just before the annularity, you can see the moon has almost covered the whole sun, right? The same one with the clouds over here and the partial stage. Then the second set of pictures were clicked by Miss Sakshi Sharma ma'am. And over here, you can see a beautiful point of view from the screen of the DSLR. You can see the annularity over here. And just beside it is the complete annular ring, the whole picture over here. So we can see the ring of fire. And I must say, it stands up to its name, a ring completely made up of the fiery plasma of the sun surrounding the moon. And below it is a picture that our third two leader, Yogesh sir, took along with the help of another student, our Eclipse ambassador Rudraksh. And over here are the annularity. And if you can see a little bit on the top of this picture, there is the Bailey beads, beads of light that form during an eclipse. So all in all, I think it's correct to say that Heliodc, all of them, and especially Heliodc 2019, was a big success in terms of scientific education of the students, in terms of cultural education of the students, and helped make them more, literate in terms of the scientific methods, made them more confident to speak out, to exchange their ideas, and expose them to a new set of experience. Something I hope they would never forget. So over here, moving on, I am going to take you to the winners of our 2019 eclipse, right? So the rank one was achieved by Soham Gupta, followed by Ketan Joshi, right? So these are our eclipse winners: Avik Chaudhary, we have Rudraksh Sangwan, we have Anushka Garg, then we had Sahitya Yanamandra, we had Krishanki, Joy Malik, Sayyam Dua, Arav Gupta, followed by Nalin Goyal. Then we had Anuvrat Lal, Sumanshu Aikat, Kartik Mandar, Chinmay Shokin, Anshika Varshne, who were followed by Aditya Arjunanibha, Ira Agrawal, Chirag Mehta, and Ekam Rajiv Singh. The 20 stars of the shining constellation we would call Heliodc 2019. So these bright minds were behind all the experimentation data that you saw, behind most of the pictures that you saw. And with this, I would wish all of them and every student who aims to, pursue astronomy, pursue studying eclipses, chasing eclipses, a very all the best. So that was the end of my report, right? And over here are some of the feedbacks that we had from some of the parents of our eclipse winners. So it's good to see how well received our initiative was, how the parents well understood the importance of this. And it's always good to have the support of parents, right? Because it's with their support, it's with their help that we are able to motivate the students to achieve more. So, with that, I would like to end our report on the Heliodc 2019, a flagship project, idea, the seed that came from our CMD sir, Mr. Sachin Bhamba. And now I am going to stop sharing my screen. So I hope all of you enjoyed being in the eclipse with us, uh, observing the live coverage from various parts of the countries. And the eclipse is not over yet. There's going to be the last contact in a couple of minutes. So I hope all of you stay along, right? Stay live and make sure you observe the last contact before it ends. Thank you. And I hope you had a wonderful experience. Bye.